every athlete, every person, every human being has an opportunity. Some opportunities don't come when you want them. But if you're prepared, good opportunities can happen. Always be ready, because you never know when your number is going to get called.
I'm not coming back.
EMI Apparel. Encourage me. I'm young.
Calvin T. Mann, leading EMI, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIYTV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the EMIYTV Put Your Family First podcast. Today is going to be a rumble in the jungle. We already are at war in here, so it's going down, right? I just want you to know that, right? It's happening, and we're excited to be in front of you today at 4 p.m. as scheduled. Hello, Heather. Hello, Monique.
Hello.
Hey.
Good. So, and I know you want to jump right into this, as I'm trying to share this with the different people so they can be involved. First of all, like, I want to give a rest in peace to the young man Andre Sheldon, the former football player, but also Chad Festovich, one of my former football players, basketball players, and Omari Rideout. Two young men, two young fathers who have gone on, and one young man who still had a promising future. So knowing a few people and just wanted to share that. My condolences go out to their families. Losing fathers is a very heavy thing. And it's very tough on the young men. In fact, I made sure that Chad's son had my number as a young athlete, where he'll get some of the same things his dad got. Amari had his funeral in Chicago. So sharing that, I really, this conversation today, really decision making shaped by parents, and I really wanted to really get into this conversation. Is there something you want to highlight first before I get into this? My point, because I'm saying some of the important things, that there are things that parents don't know about their kids that they discover about their kids, and it can be too late. And there are some other things that parents are not privy to about their kids and growing up, and don't pay attention to until it's too late. And these are just from experience. If we're paying attention and we parent from a different model, we're able to guide our kids into successful areas and proper and healthy decision making, right? And that's ultimately, the job of a parent, preparing them, teaching them things that will last them a lifetime. And it's very, very important as parents that we understand that, right? And for this conversation, because coming into here, it was a rumble in the jungle, because we wanted to figure out exactly what direction we wanted to go in, right? And as usual, there are some agreements and some disagreements, right? And that's part of life. That's part of the situations. That's relationships. That's everything. And so it's just important for us to understand that I'm not always right, and neither is she. And that's for any situation, any relationship or any friendship or any kind of building any kind of relationship, we need to understand that sometimes you are not always right and sometimes you're not always wrong, right? So I want to get that out there as well.
You hear that, Monique? That was a disclaimer if I have ever heard one. Would you agree? That was a disclaimer.
I like that though, right?
Of course you do. You said it.
Right. So
yes, to answer your question, there is something I'd like to say to start.
Okay, get out.
All right. So in some research, two leading, of course, psychologists and researchers made a statement, and it says that wise parents guide their children by creating a safety net of appropriate limits. They also encourage desirable behavior with positive reinforcement and are clear about and firm about rules and expectations, explain the reasons behind the rules, and enforce the consequences of breaking them. This gentle but firm guidance is crucial because it helps children develop an internal sense of self-responsibility and morality. Now, when I saw that, I thought it was pretty comprehensive, and I thought also it actually starts this whole conversation from the research about that having the world look at family through a different lens. So the world placing the responsibility of guiding children squarely on the parent. Among other things, that they were talking about a proclamation, but it said among other things, parents have to teach their children to love and serve one another. It said to keep the commandments and to be contributing citizens in the world. Now, when it said to love and serve one another, I think how we look at that statement could be, it could be a little bit challenging. Like it could speak to the fact that you're teaching children to treat other children with love and support. But even beyond that, how do you teach children to respect? We're talking love one another, but how do we teach them to just respect themselves, other children, and adults? I think that's a place right now in our communities and our societies where it's hard to teach that lesson because parents also teach by their own actions. And children learn by the actions of the parents more than they learn from the words. And I think that's really a pivotal part of our conversation today. If the responsibility of guiding children is squarely upon parents, and if parents expect to set those limitations and boundaries for their children, but they're not practicing them themselves, we have a disconnect with what we're teaching our children and our expectations of them. You want to expect something different of them than you do yourself. So I think parents have to take this journey along with the children in terms of guidance, in terms of learning, in terms of setting those limitations that they mentioned in their quote.
Okay. So my position, right? And let's be clear. The foundation. As I was sharing and have shared many times, the foundation is huge in setting the term. We deal with, right now, we have a smash suicide campaign going on, Boys 5-11, number 1. The suicide statistics is off the level. How does suicide come into play? It comes from a poor foundation, in my opinion. Children not being taught to get back up. Children always getting a pillow before they hit the ground. Oh my God, he's don't fall. Oh, he's not. Oh, she's right. And so when we do that, right, we teach a sense of like, what's the word for it? A sense of
Codependence.
I can count on you, right? But then, as I stated early, the key is teaching them so they can be self-reliant. Therefore, they can handle any situation, because you got to prepare them through situations. I'm gonna get this story because I think it's a perfect one, and right to go along with that. And it's a small one, right? And it was a phone call from my son, and he was talking about my grandson. Right? And so this is a tale of both my grandsons. One of my grandsons, when I go to pick him up, he comes off the steps full blown papa, right? He don't take not one step, right? He full blown. He skipped a step, fall down the steps, right? Scar his leg, right? Pick him up. You good, man? Right? We go through that process, right? Hand him to his father. Let his father do his thing. Soon as I get him back, say bye-bye, I put him down, we walk to the car. Right? Not, I'm going to carry you all the way to the car because you fail. Right? I'm going to let you walk to the car. Another scenario, my grandson in the car, his dad jumps out the car, the kid's still in the car seat, and the door locks. My grandson is strapped in his car seat. How's he going to get out? But because my son has been talking to his son at a very calm tone, building his foundation, he can listen. He's not in a panic, and he eventually opens the door.
Who opens the door?
Ezekiel eventually opens the door from the car seat as a 2.5-year-old. Why? Because he's been teaching. Parenting is a teacher's job. A lot of times in that crux, because we're going to talk about the foundation. The foundation can't just be all emotion. Teaching our children all emotion creates a lot of issues and problems. Allowing our kids, doing everything for our kids, allow our kids to become manipulative. These are things that happen. I was a manipulative little boy after my parents divorced. I played the whole harmonica thing. When I didn't get my way, I just for attention. Right? You don't love me. All of that. Right? I did the whole song and dance. Why? Because that way I could steal attention. You see? I was the little boy also. I've shared on many occasions on here. I was the little boy at 10 years old because of the absence of my father that I contemplated suicide. I was the little boy that packed my bags to run away 3 or 4 times because my dad was gone. I was that little boy. So when we don't give children a full, solid foundation, mentally, spiritually, the whole nine, then the decision making is in trouble.
You're saying future decision making?
I'm saying decision making at the time and future, because what that behavior becomes behavior that they carry into the classrooms. You can't tell me the whole generation right now, I want to do what I want to do generation, is why everything is out of whack. That whole generation, I want to do what I want to do. And we were having this conversation. You can't tell them no. You can't tell them no. You tell them, look, no, you can't have my number. And the boy shoots and kills a girl. No, you can't have my number. No, I don't want to go on a date with you. And the boy shoots and kills a girl. Why is that? Because he's not been told no.
Okay, so that's one level, but it's a whole nother level when you have access to a firearm to do that. It's a whole nother level when your response to or your emotional response is violence and murder. So there's some other dynamics behind that.
It's a broken foundation. There's no question.
For sure.
Right. And so that's why I was starting at the foundation, and I gave those examples, right? I'm saying as parents, the parenting model right now is friendship. Oh, this my bae. This my best friend. This is my this my mama. This my daddy. Oh, we best friends. And that's not good. Having a relationship with your parents is very good. But if it's based on this my best friend and all that, you're going to have issues. You're going to have issues, right? Because where is my decision making shaped at? In that relationship. Well, why you don't go to school every day? Because I don't feel like it.
And it actually is always deeper than that. If they're saying I don't feel like it, you might have to look deeper. So you might have to look at the relationships they have with their peers in school, what's happening with the teachers, what kind of image do they have, what's their, and I'm doing this right now, so I'm teaching a class to some middle school students. And my question to them, so we're calling our class together the Passport for Life. And so they each have a passport where they're putting the responses to their questions. And one of the questions is, what is your personal brand? And I describe that for them as, what are you known for? Are you known to be a good friend? Are you known to be sharing? Are you known to be responsible? What are you known for? And so that was one of the questions. And I asked them a second question. What do other people know you for? And I'm saying that because some kids, especially at that young age, some kids are shaping their image, but it's not their image. They might be borrowing an image from a performer or athlete or somebody that they're watching, when the reality of who they are, they still are figuring that out.
But you said something which leads right into my point. You said you have to look deeper.
Right.
So
it could be social. It could be their social environment.
So you said,
I should say it was environmental.
Okay. So I'm the parent, and here's the child. Mm-hmm. You've been prepared to go to school.
Okay.
Right? I probably prepared you to go to school.
On that day, or you saying?
Period.
Okay.
As a parent, we prepare our children to go to school. When does I don't feel like it become the norm? When did it become norm in your home?
It wasn't.
Okay. So
if I said I didn't feel like it, there was cause for deeper things.
Right. So we're going to have a conversation. I don't feel like it. So, which was abnormal for you because you went to school every day, right? But today, when we say, I don't want to go to school, in that description, what's wrong at the school?
The environment.
Right. What's wrong with the teacher? Right. You see where we're going? No, let's deal with you.
But your environment does shape you.
Okay. Man, I'm not disagreeing with
sometimes those environments can be toxic, and the parents don't know the environments that their kids are being put into.
Well, that's a problem in itself. That's a whole nother piece about the decision, because you know what, you go to the school. They know you at the school, don't they? So we not letting nobody off in this conversation. I'm not. I'm sorry. So I'm telling you that.
It's not about letting somebody off.
I'm not letting you off. As a parent, you have to be involved at the school to know. Period.
And when you have to have involved, what do you mean?
You have to have a relationship with the teacher. You have to have a relationship with the principal.
What do you mean by relationship?
Talking, being visible, making sure that you do know. On top of the grades, homework, all of that is a parent. That's part of teaching them accountability.
Okay.
Right? We was hungry. Well, we had the canned food. We barely even had lunch. So when it comes from a poverty perspective, we wasn't eating hot chips and stuff like that. We was eating syrup sandwiches. So, but the one thing that was consistent with in our home was you had to go to school. You had to go to school. And these are the reasons why the workforce is damaged today. So as a parent who, let's take parents who, I know some parents who skipped school a lot. That's in their DNA code. So having a reason to be upset at the teacher is how you're teaching. So you rather go to the school in a reactionary format, right? Teaching the kid, this is how you handle situations. That's a poor model, in my opinion, right? So to get back to my point, right, what is the foundation? What does the foundation look like in order for our children to make proper decisions in life? How do we shape that? Because if we don't give our children solid foundations, these things become hard for them. We already talked about how it's hard for them to hear no. Why? Because we're parenting from the did not give you. Did not give you everything? Did not give you got the game? You got nice shoes? You got a jacket? I just spent $300 making sure you had that whole outfit. And these are the type of grades you bring me? And the kid never asked, what did you teach me? Oh, you raising me on didn't I? So when the crash happens, where are our children going? I just read you the statistics.
When you say the crash, what do you mean?
When suddenly I'm in a situation that I wasn't prepared to be in.
You saying that when our children are saying?
Yes.
Okay. So some of the ways that we can do that, because we always talk in solutions. So some of the guidelines for guidance as a parent include setting reasonable limits on children's behavior. So providing stability and security. Also, it says when consequences are consistent, children learn the results of poor choices. Experiencing consequences allows children to rehearse better behavior and understand how to deal with future situations.
Which is, if you fall, we don't throw the pillow down.
Well, I think that's relative, and I also believe that's depending on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's just a blank statement that is put on parenting that you don't intervene if you see your child about to fall. Like, just let them fall. Let them fall. The rail is not on the porch anymore, so the child is going toward the end of the porch. So you just stand there as a parent to say, don't say anything and just let them fall over.
So I was clear. I was clear about teaching.
I'm asking.
Yeah, but I was clear.
That example.
I'm giving you the example. Today's parent.
I gave you an example. Work with my example first.
Right. I said, but you brought it to me. I'm clear on making teaching as the front runner.
How do you teach
in those
in
things?
That circumstance is what I'm asking.
When I say about falling, right? I mean
physical falling.
Metaphorically, for a failed situation, right? What I mean is you going to school, the kid brings home 2 D's and an E. You going to the school to talk irrational to the school about why your kids got 2 D's and an E. Right? And so that's a pillow because that's out of order. The conversation is supposed to be with the kid. Long time ago, you should know the direction your child is headed in academically long before the process. First 5 weeks. There has to be a conversation in the first 5 weeks of school. So if a kid brings home a D or an E, they call them progress reports. Now, back in the day, when you was going to school, I was going to school, we could interrupt the progress report. And some people literally could get a pencil and change the grade. In our house, you sweating bullets because that was unacceptable.
You're talking about the D's and the E's.
Unacceptable. So that was a standard.
So we're talking about putting pillows down for the experiences that the children have.
Right. And so me going to the school to go off on the teacher about the grades is a pillow.
Okay, so now I do want you to use my example, and you can use it metaphorically if you need to, but because I need to understand, because I'm a mom, and I'm going to respond. If I see my child falling off the porch, I'm not going to sit there and let them fall off the porch. And so you can translate that to, if I see my son failing in Spanish, I'm not going to let him continue to fall. That means that we need to do something extra. That means we need to, get some app if that's the technology that the family uses. To me, that's more of a corrective pillow action.
No, that's an involved parent.
Okay, so then what you call putting a pillow needs to be a little more refined for me to understand what you mean by that. When you're saying don't put a pillow down, don't intervene.
You're taking your child's side when your child was the one, you and your child were the ones that failed.
Okay, so
as an involved parent, that's just one form of a pillow. What I mean when I'm explaining to you about pillow, and you right there with me in the program, rescuing a child when the child is done something that they have to be disciplined for, right? Rescuing that child, it doesn't help them learn from that process. So before that child hits the ground in that process, or before someone can step in to teach the lesson of the child, you come in and say, not my child. So you rescue the child from a difficult situation that they have to learn from. These are things that is done daily with our children. So me having respect for the adults in my life, me having respect, why do I have to have respect? Because the one adult that's raising me is always protecting me from poor decisions.
Well, again, to me, environment has a huge impact on it, because environment also becomes culture, acceptable culture. And if you're being raised in an acceptable culture, then in your mind, it's acceptable until it isn't. And so I think that's a mixed message that can be sent out as well. And I think we have to, with our kids, we have to provide clear messages. We can't have ambiguous messages going to our kids, so they're confused about what the real answer is. And ambiguous message is, don't smoke weed, and I'm blowing it in your face. Like, we can't tell them not to do something that you're doing. If you're saying, watch your mouth, it's grown folks around, or it's elders around, or it's children around, and you still cussing out everybody every other word. But I'm saying, if that's your acceptable culture, you may not realize that it's unacceptable behavior. And that's also what we breed in our children. But that, again, that's based on the culture. So, I mean, I can think of a lot of examples, just growing up and people in our community whose family's culture was different.
When we were growing up, what did we have? You cut the TV on, it says, the little boy is laying in the bed. The father walks in the room. He says to the little boy, Tommy, I found this under your bed. When did you start doing drugs? And Tommy said, they said, I saw you doing it. That was the drug prevention commercial when we was coming up. Right? The message I want to get across is the decision making is learned from the parenting behavior, and how the parent guides the children helps them make quality decisions. Right?
Presently and long term.
Presently and long term, because once I see, and including them, which is what we do so well in our mentoring program, we include them into adult-like formulas and situations. Right? So they learn how to go in the home and assist and help, because this is what they're being taught by men to become men.
Yes.
Ooh, that's dope. Right?
FMAM.
Right. For men, by men. Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. Right? So when you get into that, now when the behavior goes out, if it's not supported, here's where we talk about the behavior and quality of decisions. So in teaching the parents, we teach the parents, right, that when he gives you the right decision, you encourage that. You make sure he knows that was a quality decision. When he doesn't give you that, then there's a conversation by, you need to meet to make better decisions. This would have been a better decision, because you're teaching the decision making. When you assume as a parent that I can just, right, and I understand was your point earlier, well, you just send a kid out and assume that a kid is supposed to make all these quality decisions. He's only going to make this, or he or she is only going to make the decisions that he's verbally seen and learned from, because we have not communicated quality decision making. So I do understand that.
All right, so here's another strategy. Good parents are rarely viewed by their children as dictatorial. It says, in fact, children are more likely to follow parental guidance when it's given in a context of mutual give and take. Meaning they're also more respectful of parents and others when parents share their power, such as taking their children's input seriously in family decisions. Children of parents who wield total authority are actually less likely to comply. You disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with it.
Okay, so next one is parental guidance is also vital because it starts children on the path to developing their own sense of morality and responsibility. It says, as you guide and direct your children, remember this principle offered by parenting specialists. Children learn by doing, not by having parents do it for them.
Woo!
Guiding conveys walking along beside them, showing them the way.
Come on, Dorothy. Yeah. And that's, again, here's another point of highlighting the work that we do, right? Because that's exactly what we do, right? Making sure that they learn by doing it.
Indeed.
Right? If they don't do it, it's hard for them to learn, because we learn different.
We learn different. And we learn different from gender as well. And age.
Yeah.
And then we also learn differently depending on who's teaching us and how. What style of parenting are they using? Because there are multiple parenting styles. They just talked about being a dictator as one.
Yeah. And being a dictator has to be seen that way. right? What does it look like as a dictator parent? I'm always right, you always wrong.
And also, it's because I said so.
Yeah, we heard that a lot in the 70s.
So,
because I said so saved a lot of tail.
and it hurt a lot of them too. So,
But it most definitely, I believe, to save more. Because I said so because that's a temporary plug, right? With me not having to explain why. Because I might not have time to explain. Having a great story. When Colum, right, my brother, I want to go down the street, and my mother said, "Don't go down the street." Right? And my mom said, "Don't go down the street, Columbus. And whatever you do, don't go down the street down there where that cars crashed in the backyard." And my brother said, "Okay." So then he come and ask again. And, "Ma, can I go down the street?" She said, "No." He said, "Why?" "Because I said so." Right? Now, it's already been explained not to do it. Then I done told you again. Right? So what did he do? As a hard-headed son, the older son, who come from very spoiled beginnings. He was very spoiled. He grew up fast, but he was very spoiled. And he went down there, and he was hard-headed, and swung on that rope, and it broke. And that's when he got his thigh hooked on that car. And he had to go through skin grafts and all of that. Right. Now, that was, of course, between my mother and father having a divorce. My dad was gone. We became immediately hard-headed. You talking about baby's kids? We was up and down that street, full-blown, going wherever we wanted to go. We was getting whoopings. We was gone. We was the original. The first 7, the original babies. We 8 Mile and Prairie, we was everywhere. We did everything we wanted to do. Then we took consequences. We knew to be in at a certain time. Right? We knew to be in at a certain time. But we took consequences. We had good men. We was shown a lot. We did a lot. But because of that, just that one move of him being gone and not being present opened up the door, right? And so back then, mark me if I'm wrong, but a hard head make a soft ass is what we heard.
I heard behind.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so these are some other ideas for guiding children. It says, explain family rules in advance. Make sure your children know what's expected of them in advance and the consequences if they break the rules. For example, don't wait until your teen asks to spend all night out at a party to discuss a curfew time or what the consequences are if he or she comes back late. Let your children know ahead of time that if they play ball in the house, the ball will be put away for a few days. Make sure your children understand that the consequence for name calling will be a timeout or writing an apology note.
I don't know about that. We was in the crib hooping. You hear me? So back when we was coming up, right? we got hangers, right? And we made little rims out the hangers, right? And so we would put the hanger on the door, bend it, make a basketball hoop, close the door on one end, and do the same thing on the other end. And we was going coast to coast with a sock. And then we moved to a little tennis ball. And I'm talking about we sweating, dunking on each other, full blown while she gone. She come back in the house, you'd act like nothing happened. Them hangers go in the closet, we'd act like nothing happened. Yeah, but
did you know? Did your mom tell you the consequences of being?
Oh yeah. You can't play in her house. Remember, I told you she had always said, "Take your ass outside. Go outside. Get from up under me is what we were told as boys.
And that was the guideline.
Those were the rules. And you got to be here in a certain time. And if I call you, I'm only calling you one time. If I got to call you, I'm going to send your brothers to come get you. That is probably worse, having your brothers come get you. This is why I love my brothers. For real. There's no question about it. Because you understand that those were the rules because of the separation. Those were the rules that had to be set because we had became the protectors
Of each other?
Yeah, we had to. If you jumped on one, you had to see everybody else. That's the way it was. It's just the way it was. We was not buying it. And so, but that's different now because that's not the makeup. And so we have to understand, and this is why parenting.
It's not so different. There are lots of people now where you would see brothers and sisters. Now you see mothers and fathers jumping on kids.
Well, yeah,
Mostly
because of the
mothers.
immaturity.
Mostly mothers. You see more fights between adults and children than you ever have.
Because of the immaturity.
In our community.
The immaturity that is in brokenness is very on the sleeve of a lot of people. This is why we talk about the reactionary action. I've been through this.
But what we teach our children as a result of that, it is not appropriate for adults to jump on children.
Well,
I mean, and I know some things seem very extreme, and
right.
And you're thinking that's my child. Like, I'm not going to stand by and let somebody. Of course not. But we have to remember how we handle situations is how we teach how to handle situations.
Well, yeah, and again, because you don't have a healthy model, you yourself didn't have a healthy model. You have this assumption that just because I'm a mother or just because I'm a father, that this is how I'm supposed to do it. We have a cultural assumption that you're supposed to walk in the store. If you feel like if somebody's cheating, you raise your voice, you're going to get $3 off. That's a real cultural assumption, right? Who you talking to? And you get loud. Another cultural assumption.
That's going to...
That's somehow that's going to resolve it. I'm going to talk tough to you and say all these things. That's a cultural assumption. The reason why our children right now, this is a real reason, right? Because those cultural assumptions have replaced of maturity and education.
And values.
Yeah, and
values.
You don't have a standard. You don't have a standard. You don't have a boundary. You have a standard.
It's not consistent.
It is so bad for these kids.
It's inconsistent, but we're focusing on solutions. So the next one is involve your children in setting family values as much as you can. Discuss family rules with your children and arrive at an agreement together. Children are more likely to comply with rules that they help to set.
Exactly, and it's very important. Right? Because the inclusion also builds the solid foundation for the family. The inclusion of it helps make good quality decisions. It helps stabilize them where they're not so emotional. When you do that and you do it in a format that it all has value, it works.
It does work better. And I was thinking one of the reasons why I believe it works too and being included is because you get to understand the why. You get to understand why this is important as you're having that conversation. So if you're a part of setting the rules and you're saying, well, why do you think that should be part of the rules? Or why do you think that should be a rule at all? And you hear their point of view, you get a little more insight into your children.
Right, because we used to have family meetings. And it always stopped at Surge, right? So Corn working on it right now, but it always stopped at Surge. We get the family meeting rolling, we got the family going, the whole nine. As soon as it get to Surge, right, they stop.
Why?
Because Surge is It's Surge. You know what I mean? Like it's
So because he thinks differently, because he has so much to bring to the table. I mean, those reasons are whatever those reasons are. You don't have to actually share
right.
it,
But what he'll do is
important.
after a second, he'll come back and he'll cook a whole bunch of food and he say, "Everybody, come on." So his format, he always changes his format. Everybody be going straight ahead. Surge gonna go this way or this way, and then come back. Right? It's always been him. He always go against the grain. That's Surge. You say, Surge, we gonna do it? Man, I'm Michael Jackson, right? And so he gonna always, because that's who he is. Right? You know, it's the same for my sister and it's the same for me. Like we all decide or determine how we do things. That's the difference in how we were made. My parents were at different spaces when they created all of us. So it is absolutely astounding how caring and loving we are toward each, but we're all different.
For sure. Okay, so the next one is encourage good behavior with rewards. Rewarding good behavior with extra privileges and surprises motivates children better than punishment. For example, if your child has worked hard on chores all morning, you could tell her or him, "You're such a good worker. Why don't we go out for ice cream when you're done?"
Well, yeah, you might want to do ice cream, but I think the fact is you don't necessarily have to encourage, you don't necessarily have to reward encouragement with a treat. We're not animals, right? Encouragement is sufficient in this situation. You do something good, we're going to let you know, and encouragement is sufficient. And it doesn't mean we got to go every time. "Oh, you really did that? Come on, let's go get an ice cream."
I think if it's consistent with your punishment system, then yes. Because if you don't have to be punished every time you don't do it, and I mean, because it's the opposite system. So if they're always punished when they do something wrong, but they're never rewarded when they do something good, I think you lose them that way too.
Again, you reward consistency. You don't reward just that one thing. The encouragement is sufficient enough. And if they are consistent in that behavior, that reward sustains that behavior and decision.
Possibly.
Always.
Possibly.
You've watched it for the last 7 years. Always. When they are encouraged on the spot and do what is asked of them consistently, they are rewarded. Not at the first drop, at the last drop, when it's significant and it carries over.
But then you have to recognize when that period of time brings that type of reward. And so everybody's system is not the same. So we have to just acknowledge that, but acknowledge that encouragement is one of the best strategies.
Okay, so let's dive. Well, we don't have time to dive in that,
we don't.
right?
No, we
but
don't. So let's keep going with some more.
Okay, go ahead. We'll cover
tools. More. Speak in positives. Young children tend to respond better when they're redirected to a positive behavior rather than punished for a negative one. For example, instead of saying, "Get away from that vase," say, "Please come over here by me." Instead of saying, "Don't you dare make another mess," say, "Next time, remember to pick up your toys, please."
Yeah, okay. Dorothy wrote that one too, okay?
I mean, but it is sometimes it is in the way that you say what you say.
No, I agree. It's the bottom of that, right? Don't you dare make another mess.
Right.
Next time, remember to pick up your toys, please. Okay. And so how long are you going to say,
I mean, we're talking about guidance to parenting.
All right.
So we have to listen to new guidance. If you keep doing the same thing you've always done the same way, you're going to get that same result.
You're going to get the same result. I agree with you on that.
So we need, if that's not how you've done it before, we need new strategies.
Yeah, you got to have new strategies. No, I get it. Because words.
Believe you, I am also saying this to myself. Okay. I don't want you to think that I'm on the other side of that, and I don't have any room for this. There is nothing but room for growth for me. All right, so talk it out. When your children makes mistakes, sit down and talk with them. Discuss what they did and what the consequences were. Listen to them. Rehearse with them what they might do differently next time.
Whoop me. The talks are heavy. Whoop me. My mother would start talking, and she talking and talking and talking and talk. You go from 6'5" to 1'5" while she talking. And so in the middle, a lot of men will tell you this. Their mothers did a lot of talking to them. We all volunteered to take the whooping. We'll learn from the whooping. The talking was just too much. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, here we go. That was our thing. But I agree, that you talk it out.
Strategies. You don't have to use all of them. You don't
right.
have to use
I agree. You talk some things out for sure.
All right. Teach by example. Your own behavior is your child's most influential guide. If you want to teach your children honesty, be honest. If you want to teach your children decency, be decent. Morality, be moral. You must behave honestly, and you have to behave morally yourself. Consider your personal strengths and weaknesses. What can you improve to become a better person for your children? Set a personal goal to improve in what area that will make your whole world better.
Yeah. Listen to all that. Tell them where they can meet you.
You can reach me at yourinspiredwithad.journey.com, yourinspiredjourney.com, and you can reach me by phone at 313-759-7855. Thank you.
You can reach me at calvintman.com, also at emmyworld.com. Well, I really want to say this because decision making is a tough tool to learn, right? If you don't come to the table with the proper tools, as parents, we can teach some bad things. We have seen consistently, and within the culture, within the country, in a number of areas where decision making and a poor foundation impacts our children. Our children are dying by suicide. Our children are dying by violence. The number 2 way for a child to die is a bullet in this country. So we're watching the process of poor guidance and poor decision making and learned behavior in the wrong way. And some of these things that we shared in here today from our secret sauce has always been encouragement. And the reason why encouragement is not just because it says encourage me, I'm young, because encouragement shapes the cognitive mind. It shapes the heart. Encouragement shapes the lungs, how they breathe. Encouragement is such a powerful tool to use that if you just sit down and go through a process, it'll help solidify a rock solid foundation for a kid. So in that process, what happens is the child will only come to you when they feel a certain way. Today, our children are not coming to us. They're just executing. And that is the problem. We see in a number of areas the same thing for men because men don't talk. And so as you learned today, 116,000 men in this nation took their life last year. These are just a number of statistics. Why? Because the number one problem is that where do we go to and who do we go to talk to? Right? And how do we do that? Well, because our foundation is shook, we try to depend on the person that's closest to us, and then because their foundation might be shook, they don't know how to respond. I beg every last one of you, we have to be better husbands and better wives. This is another way that we guide and teach our children, because getting into relationships is one of the areas that we lose the most. And our children pay the biggest price when we're not together. That is healthy decision making. It's not about you, parents, anymore. It's tough. I and I know it's tough. I have gone through it, and I understand. But I'm telling you, making sure that you teach your children a solid foundation of respect, accountability, listening, understanding, right? And paying attention. And most important, providing love to themselves. Teach your children to love themselves. So that foundation doesn't get shook. When I was a little boy, we were little boys. And all my mother used to do was bring us in front of the mirror and have us look in the mirror and say, "Aren't you handsome?" Say, "I'm handsome. I'm handsome." And so we all got to tell ourselves that we were handsome, right? Look in the mirror and say that you're handsome. Are you handsome? Look in the mirror and say that you love yourself. These are things that literally solidified us to the point that you see us today. And not one of my brothers at all. We don't know what ugly look like because we all fine. And that you can't tell us no different. But that's because it was made up in our foundation. And so parents, I challenge you to parent better, do better, and look at things differently in shaping your child's decision making so your children can make proper and quality decisions, because we don't need another goon or another young person going out here putting their life on the line for something that they don't own. My name is Kelvin Mann, President and founder of Encourage Me. You have been listening to Put Your Family First podcast here on EMIYTV at Podcastic. God bless you. And, hey, encourage me. I'm young. Peace.